Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the Voice of Reason. Today we're continuing our ongoing coverage of the war between the Russian Federation and the Ukraine. Now, there has been a series of articles in the mainstream media, and I'm going to go over one with you in just a minute here. But the title in many of these articles is about a peace proposal being positioned, I want to say positioned, by Volodymyr Zelensky, the current unelected president of the Ukraine. Now, what's interesting is this is not really a peace proposal. This is simply a military proposal that is being positioned towards the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and more specifically, the White House, to the Joseph Biden administration, and whoever is running the country currently, and we really don't have any idea who that is at this point. But here we go. Here's one of the articles. The Kremlin on Wednesday dismissed talk by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky about a plan he has to end the war, and said Russia would continue what it calls its special operation in Ukraine. Now, when you hear that, on the surface, you immediately tend to believe that Zelensky has an idea to make peace with Russia. Right? Maybe? Well, that's not what this is. That is not at all what this is. Zelensky said on Tuesday he would present his plan, full details of which he did not publicly disclose, to President Joseph Biden and his two potential successors. Zelensky, addressing a news conference, said Kiev's 3-week-old incursion into Russia's Kursk region was part of his plan. Oh, now we're getting into the crux of what is happening. But that it also comprised other steps on the economic and diplomatic fronts. Now here we go. The idea, said Zelensky, who is pressing Washington to allow his forces to use long-range, U.S.-supplied arms to strike deep inside of Russia, was to force Moscow to end the war. This is not the first time that we have heard such statements from representatives of the Kiev regime. We are aware of the nature of this Kiev regime, Kremlin spokesperson Peskov told reporters when asked about Zelensky's plan. But what else could Peskov possibly say? Because essentially, the plan, the quote-unquote peace plan, is to use U.S. weapons to either strike in or around Moscow or targets near Saint Petersburg. And the Kursk incursion is part of that 2 to 3 step plan. It's a military operation. It's not a peace plan. And it has nothing to do with negotiations. It has nothing to do at all with anything about a possible negotiated settlement. It is a war strategy. So why does the mainstream media here in the United States, the un-United States, declare that this is a peace proposal? That Zelensky is approaching Joseph Biden with a peace plan? It's a war strategy. It's a war plan. Now, I imagine that the Ukrainians will start to use those weapons against targets deeper inside of the Russian Federation. So again, we are not moving towards de-escalation, but the war continues to escalate. And will continue to do so. Especially as the Kiev quote-unquote regime, and again, I find it difficult to call it anything other than that, given the fact that they have suspended their constitution and also have suspended elections. What else do you call it? Who's to say that the quote-unquote Ukrainian people would vote to keep Zelensky in power? We won't know. We never will know because elections have been suspended. But more importantly, the military leadership in the Ukraine is getting backed into a corner. Upon the fall of Pokrovsk, and we've talked about this, the key transportation hub, there are some analysts that believe we could see the general collapse of the Ukrainian military, especially in the Donbass theater of operations. This would place Ukrainian troops in an incredibly precarious situation, given it would eliminate the Ukrainians' military the ability to continue to supply forces both to the northeast and to the southwest of Pokrovsk, leading to what some people believe, some analysts believe, is envelopment operations soon to follow by Russian forces, either to the north or toward the south in the direction of possibly Volodar. But the Russians continue to advance, and that is why we are now hearing about these operations that the Ukrainians could be preparing. They're getting desperate. So desperate times calls for desperate measures. The Kursk incursion was a desperate measure. If they could have used those forces to have counterattacked in the direction east of Pokrovsk and driven back the Russians, they would have probably have done that. They don't want to lose Pokrovsk. But at the same time, the military leadership in Kiev understands that those forces would not have been able to complete that objective. So they were rolling the dice. And they rolled the dice and they attempted to move on Kursk, and they attempted to move towards the power plant west of Kursk and hold it at ransom. But the Russians stopped them. And the Ukrainian Army Corps, the 7 brigades that were moved into the Kursk Oblast, is now stuck. It can't retreat. It can't move forward. And they've wasted quite a bit of combat power in this operation. So what is the White House going to do? What is the Joseph Biden administration? What are the cabalists that are in power that are running the U.S. right now? And again, we have no idea who that is. We have no idea who that is. You know, so what's ironic, in interviews, even the president of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, isn't quite sure himself who's running the United States. No one knows. Have an idea, but we can't be for certain. So we will continue to cover, we will continue to report. Thank you for joining us today. More to come very, very soon. As always, have a good day.